Hello darlings, we're back with another Corepunk video. I want to talk about the classes today in the game, but I'm going to say this up front so you guys actually have a chance to listen to this. There is a huge amount of information to go through at the moment. I'm not going to go through all the classes in one video because A, it's going to be incredibly dry because we don't actually have any gameplay at the moment, and B, the video would just be too damn long if I try to do every single class. So, if you enjoy what I have done today with the Paladin classes that we will be covering, then let me know in the comments and I will do more videos on this and we can then break down the other classes. However, if it is not interesting to you, also let me know and I won't bother and we'll put the whole concept in the bin until we actually have more in-game footage. So let's dive on in. As I mentioned before, there are 6 classes in this game. Each of them have 3 different subtypes and we're starting off with a Paladin because they were the earliest class that they were talking about. If you don't know what a Paladin is, I'm going to ask you first, what rock have you been living under? And second, I'm going to talk about them. Basically, they are highly armoured classes that use the Holy Light to smite any evildoers and also heal the good. And in Corepunk, they follow the same sort of suit, with it being a hybrid class. Each of the subtypes represents each of the archetypes from the Holy Trinity. So we've got the Hand of Light, which represents DPS. We've also got the Cleric, which represents the healer, and we've also got the Crusader, which represents the tank. So the first one I'm going to go through is the Hand of Light, and is the Hand of Light are melee heroes that use two-handed heavy weapons and the energy of the light. Though their speciality is dealing damage, they can also buff their allies in a fight. So if you like those support DPS kind of classes, as say very hybrid-esque, similar to the Retribution Paladin, then this is probably a class for you. There are in total 15 abilities per class that you take. However, you can only select 4 at any given time, and there is 1 special ability. Now, each of these are mapped to QWER. I don't know if you can put any of the 15 abilities on any of the buttons. I'm going to speculate and say yes, but they have mapped them to certain buttons, so we'll just go with what they've put. Now, interestingly enough, there's not actually any name for these abilities, so I actually have to just go by QWER. So the first one on the Q is that when you press it, it deals a powerful strike and deals physical damage in an area in front of them. All enemies hit by the ability take increased damage. So basically it's an AoE ability that clears up packs of mobs. And this is something I haven't touched in previous games, but this game does feel like a westernized version of Lost Ark. From what I've seen so far, there aren't just single creatures on their own, they're always in packs and you're always fighting them in packs, so it makes sense for your abilities to hit multiple of them. Anyway, the next ability, RW, is when the ability is activated, the Hand of Light releases a 5-meter long beam of light in a target area. All enemies struck by the beam take magic damage and have their movement speed reduced. Beams remove all slow effects from the allies who were touched by it. So again, that buffing ability and damaging ability. So this is like a giant, I don't know, holy iron cannon by the looks of things. Sounds pretty cool. I don't remember the last time I actually saw a Paladin with a Yamato cannon out the front of it, but hey, I'm all for it. Holy beams all the way. Also looks like something that could be quite useful in PvP, but interestingly enough, for a two-handed class, it does feel like a very static ability. Anyway, the next one on our E is the Hand of Light marks the enemy for 5 seconds. When expired, the mark deals true damage and 10% of all damage received while a target was marked. So basically another showcase ability that represents how the Hand of Light supports and deals damage, because you've got the true damage, which will just ignore all armor and damage mitigation, and you've also got the 10% vitality damage. That also allows your opponents to do a bucket load of damage if you do like focus, DPS, etc. I guess this one's nice for a boss, perhaps. I don't know if the 10% is capped or anything, or if it's just your own damage, but an interesting one nonetheless. And the R ability, before we move on to the ultimate, is the Hand of Light raises his weapon and starts to charge the ability, and then smashes into the ground. The ability deals magic damage to the area. The Hand of Light can move while the ability is being charged. The damage that the ability deals depends on the duration of the charge. Okay, so that seems pretty cool. I was going to say, when I started reading, I was like, oh no, we got another static ability for a mobile two-handed wielding class, which if you've ever played melee, the last thing you want to do is be stuck to the ground charging abilities, because it kind of goes against the whole grain of how it's meant to be played. But an ability that has lots of zoning potential in PvP, and I guess is quite nice for AoE packs again, because you can mix that in with your Q and then do your R, and maybe you'll finish up with your beam. In fact, while we're on this subject, I actually don't know how any of these abilities can synergize with each other without actually seeing them, because they don't feel like they've got too much of an overlap at the moment. But I guess the rotation is that you would either mark at the start, then you use your beam to like slow them, and then you would use your R or Q to just do a rotation of AoE damage. In fact, all these abilities are pretty AoE dependent, so I guess there will be more specific classes, like we go into the rogue ones later on that do single target DPS. And I guess it also highlights that you can have a mixture of AoE classes versus just single target DPS classes. But we are only looking at 4 of the abilities, and I'm sure they will have single target DPS abilities in there as well. Anyway, the last thing that I want to talk about is the special ability. So this is no named as usual, but anyway, it's after using an ability, next basic attack of the Hand of Light cast is empowered. An empowered basic attack deals bonus magic damage and casts periodic healing on the Hand of Light. Empowerment stacks up to 3 times. When the periodic healing effect stacks at 3 charges, the Hand of Light gains bonus movement speed for 5 seconds, and when expired, the charges are reset. So I'm not going to lie, this ability sounds super boring. I am not a fan of any ability that is just flat increase of damage. In fact, this just feels like a Retribution Paladin all over again in WoW. Because I think in WoW, was it Avenging Wrath or something that gives you wings and gives you like a flat increase of DPS to run around and bash your opponents with. But it does fill into the whole genre of Paladins, doesn't it really? But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think of this. Let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's move on to something a bit more interesting, which is the Cleric. So I know loads of you healers out there will probably be going, "Oh Dom, tell us about the healer, we want to know about healing." So don't worry, panic, here we go, this is what it's all about. So, excitingly, this is actually a DPS healer, because it reads as, the Clerics are support heroes who can still deal a lot of damage in melee fights. Cleric weapons are dual maces and the energy of the light, of which the latter they use for healing and shielding allies. The effect of all abilities these heroes use while they're in a fight is increased. So a pretty cool class concept nonetheless, also potentially a very overpowered class, because if you've ever played any good PvP with hybrid classes, then you know they are potentially one of the most stubborn, tenacious 1v1 classes there are. But anyway, all speculation, let's read about the queue. So the first one is, the Cleric attacks with an enemy with their weapon and deals physical damage. After the strike, a small energy zone is created around the enemy in which the Cleric gains a periodic healing. The ability can be recast if the Cleric is in the energy zone. The zone explodes, dealing magic damage to enemies. The zone disappears after that. So yeah, battle healers. So sounds pretty cool. A great melee supporting class. One of those classes you want next to a tanking class or just melee DPS. And already you can get an idea of how the synergies in this game would potentially work. Again, very much like a MOBA, where you always have like those classes that work together. You always pick a support that works well with the weaknesses of your carry, for example. And I think that's again the same elements that they're going for here. Next on the W, we have the Cleric charges the weapon and releases a light wave in front of them, dealing magic damage and debuffs an enemy, reducing their armor and magic resistance. The target is also rooted for 1.5 seconds. So you know what I was saying about really strong abilities on these hybridized classes. So we've already got an AoE heal, and we've also got a root now. I haven't really gone through the other classes so far, and I don't know which are the most OP of them all, but this one already sounds pretty tenaciously annoying paired up with a melee class. The next ability on the E is more healing centered, so this is the Cleric shields themselves are an ally. The shield absorbs all incoming damage. If the shield has more than one strength point upon its expiration, it triggers a magic explosion. In the range of 2.5 meters around the hero, all enemies in the range or explosion are stunned. So this class has a metric poop ton of healing, also has a shield, also has a stun, and a root. So yeah, if you really like those super annoying control characters that have great healing and damage, then big thumbs up for you, and enjoy seeing lots of clerics all over the place. In fact, this character feels a little bit like Omni Knight on crack if you've ever played Dota. Anyway, the next and last ability is the R, and this is the ultimate. So this is for 3 seconds, the cleric surrounds themselves with an aura, which healing allies increases the cleric's movement speed and reducing the incoming damage. While the aura is active, the cleric can use basic attacks, but is not able to use any abilities. Well, thank God for that, because oh my goodness me, this class is absolutely bonkers. You can imagine it. Stun, root, using this ability so you take less damage, and then using God knows whatever cooldowns are on top of it would be amazingly broken. Now the Cleric does sound super fun, and I am speculating a lot here, and we don't know about HP pools or armor or all the other bits and pieces around this, and the cooldowns could be absolutely hideous and the class could be total trash. But on paper I think it sounds pretty cool, and a battle healer could be lots of fun and potentially one worth checking out. Now without knowing the other abilities, it also does feel that this class could be kited into the ground, but certainly fun from a PvE element anyway. Right, the next class, and one for those who like PvE I'm sure will be interested to hear what this is all about, is the Crusader. It is the last in the tree, and it is the tanking class of the game. So it reads as the following: Crusaders are tanks who wield a shield and the Morgenstein and the energy of the light. Crusaders were made to withstand loads of incoming damage. At the right moment they can drag enemies back to them, aiding allies in a fight. And the Q reads as the following: the Crusader flings a chain in a target direction and deals physical damage. The first enemy it hits drags an enemy back to the Crusader. The ability taunts the enemy to attack the Crusader for 2 seconds. So there's your PvE, PvP skill shot that you can use to keep enemies close to you. It's a bit like a reverse grappling hook. I mean, from a PvP point of view, it sounds really fun. It kind of sounds like the League of Legends character. I can never remember the name of the robot, but he's got a big fist and can pull people in. Actually, he's a bit like Pudge from Dota 2. So I can see people playing around with this and doing all sorts of funny kind of montage videos of people being hooked left, right, and center. The next ability on the W front is the Crusader starts to charge the ability. They can't use any other abilities, launch basic attacks, and move. The ability charges 2 seconds and triggers an explosion, which deals magic damage. Recasting an explosion will occur instantly, and damage dealt will depend on the amount of time the ability was charging. So again, one of those abilities that on its own doesn't sound very exciting, but if you have another class who has an AoE stun or an AoE pull, then you could do a nice little combo and do lots of damage. In terms of PvE though, I guess it's quite handy because you can sit there tanking and then use your great big AoE burst ability. How much damage? I have no idea it does. I guess it's just to do lots of AoE taunting abilities. Maybe there's a passive that means that all damage will make enemies attack you, and then this ability makes more sense. But again, all early days speculation. The next one is the E, and this is the Crusader raises a shield and blocks the first attack or ability. If the damage has been blocked, the Crusader can recast the ability. The Crusader does physical damage in a small area in front of them and slows all afflicted enemies. So just your run-of-the-mill PvE block ability. I guess it would be cool in PvP if you block a big old skill shot or something. I don't know if you can actually improve these talents. I can't remember if I read this somewhere. But yeah, just another ability that allows you to just basically control packs of mobs. The next ability, and the last one before we get onto the ultimate, is the R. So the Crusader creates a field on the ground. All enemies trapped in this field can use teleporting and dashing abilities. All allies within the field take reduced damage. When enemies cross the border of this field, they will be disarmed and will take magic damage. When the Crusader or the allies cross the border of the field, they gain bonus movement speed. So there is the key combination there. So the R is to zone all your enemies into one specific area where they have to make a choice. Do I stay and take massive damage from the W, which does the big damage, or move out and be disarmed and essentially take further damage because I can't do anything in terms of actually weapons because I'm disarmed? So a fun ability there. One that could potentially be set up to make nice combos, but interesting nonetheless. Now the last ability is a special ability. So this is each of the attacks from the Crusader marks an enemy. The mark stacks up to 10 times. Upon reaching the maximum stack, the mark stuns the enemies for 2 seconds. So if this was ever a precursor to stack haste, you have it right here. I don't know if there's diminishing cooldowns in this game, but yeah, I actually haven't seen any stun abilities. This is the first one that they've mentioned so far. And I guess that you have to keep attacking the same class and you can't switch to another one, otherwise it resets. But potentially a very, very annoying ability. I also don't know if it works with your other AoE style abilities, but we'll have to wait and see. And yes, looks like it could be quite a fun little tanking class for those who want to go into this spec. Anyway, that's all the classes I have for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This has been the Paladin class. I'll iterate again. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother because they are pretty dry and I feel that they could be potentially a bit boring for people to listen to. But for now, I'll be back with more news. I will have some more interesting videos on Corepunk relatively soon. I'm going to go through all the Q&A stuff. But for now, have a great day, everyone, and I'll be back with more news and reviews soon. soon.